everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is Dr. Sarah Doyle. She's a physical therapist, functional medicine practitioner, diplomat with the American Clinical Board of Nutrition, founder of the DrSarahDoyle.com, creator of the 7X Method Biohacking Boot Camp, co-founder and principal clinician of Heal Well Regenerative Institute in Miami Beach. She's also the author of the 7X Method, the truth about food in your body that's never been told until now. And she also has written another book that's titled The Thin Formula. The one that we are discussing today is the 7X Method. So this is my brief bio about you, Sarah. There's so much more. But my initial question after that introduction, how would you introduce yourself? Who is Sarah in this very moment?
I've been a biohacker for over 20 years before I knew it was a thing. I've been a health coach for over 20 years before health coaching was like a thing. I was originally a massage therapist before doing physical therapy, and I would just naturally coach people on wellness. So once I worked in physical therapy and worked in the hospitals, I realized how dysfunctional medicine is harming people. I mean, look, there's a time and place for everything. I'm glad there's an emergency room, but I developed a biohacking boot camp to show women, and now I got into men the last year also, just that to know that there are natural ways to help yourself with your hormones as you age, and it's really important to start in your 40s. So I call myself a midlife crisis hormone master, because I'll show you all natural ways to maintain optimal levels throughout your middle ages so that you can prevent disease later on down the road.
Yes, that's a big one. And that's my case. I'm 47 now. And of course, I have been seeing the change since I was 40 to 45. And then now it's becoming very interesting just to see this movement of the body doing things that I never thought it would. So, but it seems like I'm doing okay and I'm good with it. I'm not fighting those changes. And now I'm wondering if that plays a role too, Sarah, fighting the natural cycle of life, aging and the slowing down. Is that something to also to embrace and not just to address as a sickness or illness?
I think we need to adjust the perspective in society, and I think doctors. It starts with their training in medical school, and then it's become because they don't have the training to take care of women through menopause. Women just think they're born to suffer, and it's not true. We need to embrace it. We need to realize that menopause is the second puberty. So when you were 10, 11, 12 years old, you knew you were going to get your period and become childbearing age, and you were going to develop breasts and all the other things, that it was uncomfortable. No,
Yes.
no 11-year-old likes getting her period. Like, nobody likes that. And I think that we need to realize that menopause is a second puberty, and we have a whole second phase of life that needs to be studied, that needs to be addressed, and needs to be treated as such. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just our second puberty, and that's our second half of life.
Yes. So the importance of being aware of those changes and if they are beneficial or not. Yes, self-awareness is one of the things that for some reason, it comes first, being aware of change and how we can make it somehow direct those changes to benefit not just ourselves, but those around us. So I have way too many questions for you. Another question of my initial ones is about this idea of being healthy. How do you define a healthy person? What is to be healthy in general?
Well, I like to say health is wealth, right? So if you are healthy, you're able to wake up in the morning and do whatever you want that day without any encumbrances, without any disabilities, without any physical ailments holding you back from doing what you want. That's what I would call health.
Mm. Do you feel like you living your purpose as of this moment, doing what are you doing?
Absolutely. Yeah, I in 2022 I quit my job at the hospital with just a few coaching clients, not really
Yeah.
much. And I bet on I had some savings, and I bet on myself. I was like, I prayed about it, and I knew that, God gave me this knowledge, God gave me this wisdom, and He gave me the
Mm,
personality it takes to accept failure. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you have a lot of losses. There's a lot of ups and downs. You get kicked around a lot. And even though if you think you're doing something right, everybody thinks, we like to think we're doing everything right. And
right.
we learn down the road that we make mistakes. You have to learn that there's no losses. You just win and you learn, and you have to be really tough, and you have to have a lot of perseverance. And I'm totally living my passion, because I know that there's a limited amount of help for women out there. The statistics say that a medical doctor gets 1 to 2 hours of menopause education. An OBGYN gets only 6 to 8 hours of menopause education. Most of it's devoted to fertility, birthing, and pregnancy. And it's crazy for me to think that. So um, American doctors are just not equipped to guide women through these changes. And I've had a number of friends or coworkers tell me that they've gone to their doctor with complaints, looking for help, and they've left crying, feeling ashamed of their bodies. We should never feel ashamed of our bodies.
Mm,
We should, God gave us sex. It's the best feeling thing in the world. We should be able to talk about it. And if we can't have sex with our partner, that's a big thing. I mean, that's how God designed us. He designed us to partner and have these, have that type of activity with your partner. Like that's how we were designed. And if you can't function like that, we need to be able to talk about it as a health concern, just like having high cholesterol or high blood pressure. Like, we need to take the shame out of talking about our bodies. And I wanted to create a safe space for that.
yes, I love that message. I would love to know more about your relationship with spirituality, your relationship with God, or the idea, the concept
Mhm.
of God, and the physical pleasures of life, because there's a lot of shame, especially with women who are religious or spiritually, let's say, inclined, like myself. Yes.
I mean, listen, I never take this off. I always wear
Uh,
my crucifix. I always keep Jesus close to my heart. I pray to God and give gratitude, and I set my intentions the minute I open my eyes before I touch my cell phone.
yeah.
And that's the last thing I do before I go to bed. And I pray. And if I'm confused about a choice I need to make in business or in my personal life, I'll pray about it during the day. You have to, connect to the wisdom of the universe. And I'm Christian, and I have a lot of Christian conservative people in my coaching group. I partner with other people on podcasts, and at the end of the podcast we'll have teach them how to set up a call with me. So I get a
Mm,
lot of Christian conservative people, and we talk about sex. This is God made Adam and Eve. God made us to procreate and to enjoy it. I mean, it's something that God was given to us. Like, we shouldn't have to hide it. I know that Catholicism and the priests aren't supposed to have sex, and there's shame in this, and the nuns and this and that. I think that religion has ruined um, some of God's intentions. Like, I always wonder what books of the Bible have been omitted by, like, Henry VIII and all the other kings and queens throughout history. Like, I wish I could read all the Bible and get all the wisdom, but I guess I'll just have to wait.
uh, I would love to know, maybe you don't have to disclose about yourself, but what is your suggestion of how do we, redirect those sexual energies when they arise from a healthy body?
And well, clinical research indicates that your sexual vitality is an overall predictor, or a good predictor of your overall wellness, right? So if a man is in his 80s and he's still having sex with his wife, that's fantastic. We know that he's cardiovascularly healthy. He probably doesn't have as much plaque buildup. His blood sugars are probably well controlled. Those are all good things. And I think that, if you have a partner, that's where you should channel it. And if you don't have a partner, well, yeah, I'm not so sure. That's not really advice. I work with a lot of I work with a lot of couples and married people, and a lot of the times what happens is, the drop in testosterone, whether it's due to toxins or obesity. Half of America is obese these days. So the
Yeah.
inflammation from that will disrupt our sex hormones. Blood sugar dysregulation disrupts sex hormones. Stress will. And then for women, of course, when our estrogen levels drop, estrogen promotes growth. So when a woman goes into menopause and those estrogen levels decline, the thickness of her vaginal lining becomes thinner, and that's why it becomes more painful. So those are just, they're clues. We just need to figure out, we look at all these clues and we work backwards to find the root cause of why you're not optimized. And then, we fix it. We fix it with vitamins, minerals, herbs, and good nutrition.
Yes, yeah. Gosh, you have so much to offer. I can't wait to start talking about those things in a moment about your book. Another question that came to mind about that topic is there a specific, let's say, number of times that a healthy person would be married? Speaking of couples, I'm married myself. So would you say for a healthy body having all these, the sex drive, what would be a healthy number of times to have sex? Twice a week, once a week? Do you have any of those statistics?
I know I don't have those statistics. I think those are highly individualized. I think that if, as long
Right.
as a couple can get together when they want to, and then not have physical problems, like if there's erectile dysfunction or just pain with sex, so those are things that
Right.
I can help address. Other than that, that's a communication problem within the couple that they would, if one partner's not getting enough, like I'll talk about that in the book, The Thin Formula. It's thyroid, hormones, intercourse, and nutrition. I discussed that. So if when you turn your partner down for sex, it creates loneliness. So
Mm,
instead of saying no, you say, I'm really tired right now, but can we make a date like tomorrow? You think about it and stick to it. Like, can we do this tomorrow after dinner? That way your partner has something to look forward to. And instead of feeling rejected and lonely, it gives an opportunity to maintain that bond. You have to have sex to maintain the bond with your
mm.
partner.
That's a lovely reminder again. In my case, I feel like the only problem when it comes to that is that my husband usually tells me that he's very much active, like he wants to have sex in the afternoon and in the morning. That's when he feels like the most, let's say, the sex drive is present. But in my case, it's more in the nighttime. So, and I read that this is natural, right, Sarah, for men and women. So, how do we reconcile? How do we somehow align those desires, physical, kind of natural desires to get together?
Okay, so I would look at what it is that makes you have more desire in the evening. Is it because you have time during the day? For women, we need foreplay, and foreplay doesn't necessarily mean being naked and petting and stuff like that.
Right.
Foreplay can mean he helped me with the dishes and I didn't have to ask him. That turns me on. Like,
Yeah,
it depends on
yeah,
you can
yeah.
talk about your love languages, but even, maybe it's just because the absence creates desire. So maybe it's that, you see him, but you can't have him all day long, and that makes you want him at night. Maybe that's like, what is it creating desire? Maybe it's because you had more opportunities to share moments together. Maybe you went to the gym and you were like
Mm,
competitive and flirting. Like maybe
yeah.
those are the reasons why. I mean, for men, a lot of it is just physical. Like that's when, and especially as they age, it's kind of like when their flag's gonna fly and when their flag's gonna fly.
Ah, yes, that makes sense too. Yes, because I'm always busy in the morning, in the afternoon. So with the mind, it's always doing something else with those energies, the mental energies.
So make an appointment, compromise. If
Yeah.
I talk about that in the book too. I think if you can show up on time for your boss or for yourself,
Hmm.
then you can show up for your partner. Don't wait till the end of the day when they're like it's the last thing you do. Make them feel like a priority.
Ah, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but listen, it sounds like it sounds cheesy, but like make an appointment. We get busy, especially with
Yeah.
when there's parents where they have multiple kids and the kids are doing different activities and you're just schlepping them here and there. A lot of times it's really hard to make time for that. But if you can look at your schedules and make an appointment, like sex is good. It's going to be your favorite appointment of the week. You're like, oh,
Mm.
God, finally
Yes.
something
Yeah.
for me, you know?
Yes. Huh. Yeah. He talks that way. And I feel the same way. For some reason, sex has not been let's say, the focus in my life since I was very young too. Maybe because a lot of trauma in childhood as well.
Sure.
Yeah, and that really got in the way. But yes, we can always learn, right, Sarah? If we, as long as we are open and curious, we can always learn.
Yeah, the important thing is to make sure your partner feels loved. And there's the five love
Yeah,
languages, right? Like
right.
gifts, quality time, physical touch, acts of service. What's the other one? Oh, words of affirmation. Right. So there's those five love languages. And if you don't know your partner's love language, he's not going to feel loved. Not because you don't love them, because you may be loving them in the languages that you like to receive, not the way they like to receive. And so they may not
Yeah,
feel loved. So, maybe if you feel like there's a disconnect, go back to the five love languages and communicate that with your partner. And if like for me, I don't care about words of affirmation. You can tell me I look pretty, you can not. I don't really care. But I have other girlfriends where like they need to hear that, and
right.
their partner needs. It's just something a partner needs to learn that they're not going to, so that that may be something too that will create more of a connection.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about your book, The 7X Method, the truth about food in your body that has never been told until now. So one of the takeaways for me, I love the two things. Oh gosh, I have so many notes here, Sarah. So that we should not be counting calories. That's one in macros, and then the circadian rhythms, how they impact our well-being and in quantum energy as well. So the title of this episode, I had to have that there, is Color of Wellness, because I felt that was just very, it was a match for this conversation. The color of wellness, it just is very inspiring because you talk a lot about color, the food. That just, it's such a beautiful thing just to think about it. The seven food groups, so purple, blue. I never think that way, although I do colorful foods, but I never thought in a scientific way the way
I
you
never
describe.
did either, and I did not come up with this. Okay,
Right.
it's not something I made up. When I was traveling in 2020 by myself, I went to Central America to stay with a friend who was an expat, and he said, "Oh, you got to meet this guy in town. You guys are always talking about energy. I think you'll totally hit it off." So I meet him, and he's a liaison for a quantic medicine program in Central America, where for over 50 years they've been using food as medicine to heal people from diseases like cancers and stuff like that.
Wow.
It's now disclosure, I do not claim to cure cancer or anything like that. They didn't give me those protocols, but what they did give me permission to share was the basic timed eating protocols that will prevent disease. So I had a lot of digestive problems after an antibiotic that I took. I was really sick for like 20 years with food allergies, sensitivities. I took digestive enzymes, probiotics. I was like I couldn't even eat without taking digestive enzymes. And so I
Yeah.
tried the diet for a couple weeks, and this is for what is it 20, yeah, 4 years ago. I haven't taken a digestive enzyme since. My sleep markedly improved. I could never fall asleep before midnight unless I had like a fever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, the basic concept is we have to throw away our beliefs that are ingrained in us about counting. There's no counting anything. Now, that doesn't mean you can eat huge portions of food to where your stomach hurts when you're done. No. What they talk about is okay, in the Western world, we have classified the energy of food using the continuous data mathematical model. That means like 1, 2, 3, 4. The bigger I am, the more pounds I weigh. The longer I'm on this earth, the more years I am, right? The older I am.
Right.
So
Right.
in this
Yeah.
in this method of eating, what they used the energy of the food. They measure it with a spectrophotometer. So a spectrophotometer is a device they use in the food industry, the clothing industry. They match paint colors. They use it in the pharmaceutical industry. And what they found was that there are 7 food groups and 7 groups that are organs and systems. They take turns resting and peaking in energy. So you mentioned the first group's a purple group. That's from 7 to 9 a.m. Foods in this group will nourish your DNA, your pituitary, and your pineal gland. Well, this makes sense because your pineal gland releases melatonin all night long, And as soon as you open your eyes, the sunlight sends a signal and shuts off that melatonin production. And the pineal gland's like, whew, I got off work. Let me rest. Let me eat something, right? And same thing, the pituitary gland pumps out a lot of stuff overnight because the pituitary gland in your brain tells all your other glands in your body what to do. And so it takes a little rest in the morning as well. And the foods in this group are like cacao, coffee, black tea,
Yeah.
um, nuts, seeds, dark berries. They're foods with startup energy. Then the next group would be the blue group. That's from 9 to 10 a.m. roughly. And these foods nourish the hyaluronic acid production as well as the thyroid. And this makes sense because we know that the thyroid gland over here, it pumps out T4. And T4, it works all night long. And then it takes a little break between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. So that's why people who have low thyroid problems, they often feel tired in the afternoon. Maybe they're a little bit colder and then they perk up again around dinner time. So the whole idea is our organs and systems are grouped into 7 different groups where they take a little bit of a rest. I mean, nothing ever completely stops working in our body, but they take time, or they take turns peaking and resting in activity, which makes
Mm.
sense because and it's only while we're awake, right? So while we're sleeping, um, we don't notice that, but so I mean, it makes sense because if everything was peaking in activity at the same time, like energetically, we'd like want to explode. So everything takes turns. And so when I took this information back to the United States, I'm a clinical doctorate, so everything we do is evidence based. So I started scouring PubMed and Google Scholar and finding things, and what I discovered was the 2017 Nobel Prize for Medicine and Physiology was actually awarded to 3 scientists who discovered a clock gene in all of our peripheral cells.
Mm.
So
Mm.
we're just like on the cusp of it in the Western world, and it's been used for 50 years. So I started using it in my coaching program because my coaching program, we utilize at-home testing. So people sign up. I order all these tests to get sent to their house. They're mostly urine panels. You submit urine panels. So while my patients are waiting for the test, we start this 7X method. So I started with just like a 7-day reset. I wrote the protocols for that, made some recipes, and my clients are like, I feel amazing. I have so much more energy. I'm not drinking coffee. I'm sleeping better. My carpal tunnel's going away. My dandruff is going away. I lost a pant size. Like, what is this? I don't want to stop. So I continued writing, and it just turned into a full-on book with a whole bunch of recipes and a bunch of it. There's exercise information in there too. It's a lot of good stuff.
Gosh, yes. And I have to go back and see that will be my wellness Bible for now, going back to
Aw,
it.
you're
It's
so sweet.
amazing.
It changed my life too. That's why I mean, it's not cheap to write a book, hire an editor,
Right.
a publisher, do Audible. It's an Audible. I mean, it cost me 20 grand to do it. And that was a good deal. That was with a hybrid publisher. Like I did it because it changed
Yeah.
my life so much. I
Mm.
watch it change my coaching clients' lives, and I want to help millions. I want to keep people out of hospitals because that's where I started my career.
Right.
And that's an awful place to be.
Yeah, Sarah, thank you so much, yeah, for doing that. I know it's a lot of work, effort, yeah, funds. I know. So
Mhm.
thank you for the beautiful intention to help others. I have a devotion for it, I have to say. When I see other people, humans doing that, they find a solution for a problem and then they share that, and they even will pay to share that information. So that's truly, to me, that's spirituality. That goes back to the foundation.
Yeah, God made me take that. I was on the fence. I was like, should I really travel? It was during the pandemic lockdown. I
Right,
was like, should I really
right.
travel? And then God was like, go. I'm going to show you something. Go. Like that was the message I heard. And so I just went with it. So when I learned it and I wrote the book, he's like, spend the money, do it. Like I heard his voice telling me, how he wanted me to do it for his people.
Wow. One of the things that caught my attention immediately, coming from my own perspective, my own experience, is that I don't get sick often for the last, 10 years, 15 years, even COVID and all that. Nothing really touched my body, and I don't know if I'm doing everything right or I don't know what it is. I fast a lot, so I don't eat that much. I eat twice a day. And I sleep very late, 12:30, almost 1 in the morning every day. And I only eat from 1 p.m. to around 5:36, and then I stop eating.
Mhm.
2 meals, and that's it. And I work out and I watch what I eat. Of course, I'm always very conscious about it. My drink is everything. It's not counted. I don't really follow that rule, but I'm aware.
Mhm.
So I would love to hear from you about people like me. When I'm very interested in just kind of tapping into all these food groups and kind of trying to eat a little bit of each, everything from from everywhere, but I don't know if I can do that with these 2 meals a day. So I'm pretty much eat the same thing all the time.
No diversity. So you can do with like a juices. Like I do kind of like a hybrid thing long term. Fresh pressed juices are great.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
eat 7 times a day in reality. I know what the 7 food groups are, and I when I'm about to eat, I look at the time of day, and I know that it's really important for me to get green stuff around noon
Mm,
because that's for my genital urinary health as well as my sensory organs. And I know that it's really important for me to get something from the red group between 1 and 3 p.m. That is those are meats. Like that's I eat more steak than I ever have and I feel fantastic. I'll have like a steak salad or I try to have a salad. If I can't get real meat, I'll make sure I get a protein shake because that red group nourishes your heart and your adrenal glands,
yeah,
and your muscles. So for somebody that exercises, it's really important to get some protein at that time. So if you think about it, the times between, if you eat a salad, that's kind of a hard thing to digest. If you eat red meat, that's a hard thing to digest. So in this way of eating, they want you to eat those foods when the sun is in its highest point in the day energetically. That's when your body is best able to assimilate these nutrients. So it's not about fasting, or you want to give yourself at least 12 hours. I tell people at least 12 to 14 hours of nothing but water, just to let your liver do its thing. Energetically, if you're not getting something from okay, you can skip eating in the purple group if you go outside and get sun in your eyes. That will activate it. And you can, but then do try to eat a piece of fruit, between, somewhere around 10 a.m., 10, 11 a.m., and so that you do something for your thyroid, right? So you
mm,
can combine those things. And then if you don't want to eat after you have your steak salad, just grab like, at the grocery store, they have those little shots. They're like
yes,
ginger. You can just
yeah,
do a little, all you don't, you just need the electric charge. You don't need to eat a whole plate of vegetables. If you're hungry, eat carrots and or get some plantain chips and guacamole. I mean, or just get some plantains or get something. You don't have to eat 7 times a day. You can just do like a little shot, but you'll be amazed at what happens with your energy. And for people who have autoimmune dysfunction or any kind of metabolic dysfunction, I recommend that. And then the hardest thing for me to understand was that the last food group was the white foods, like
yeah, yeah,
potatoes, yuca. I mean, we don't really want to eat pasta because it doesn't have any nutrition. But pasta and bread should be treats because there's no vitamins in it,
yeah,
right? So, but that was the hardest thing for me to wrap my brain around. It was that the last thing I eat in the day is carbs. And I was like, oh my God, am I going to get fat? But no, those just having a small serving like of rice or juca or jicama or whatever white foods that will actually relax your nervous system, which we know it's why we call comfort foods like mac and cheese comfort
yes,
foods. We know, and this
yeah,
relaxes the nervous system and prepares you for sleep. So if you stop eating by like 6 or 7 p.m., then your pancreas can turn off when it wants to. Then your pineal gland can release melatonin when it's supposed to. And
right,
then you can sleep properly. Like missed insomnia is one of the top things that affect women, especially as they enter in perimenopause. So we start everything by this follow the 7X method, try to reprogram your metabolic systems that way. And then we test the hormones and do this herbal supplements and whatnot afterwards.
right. I love your suggestions. And what you said makes sense too, because I break my fasting with lemon juice. So that makes sense. And put some fruit there, right? So ginger too. And
Mhm.
then ending with quinoa, wild rice. I love
Great.
that. Or sweet potatoes. Yeah. I always
Perfect.
end it like
See, you're
that.
in it. You're intuitively following it.
Right. I
Yeah.
love the debunking myth, yeah, that you have in the book.
Mhm.
That, something you mentioned about body image, the positive, you say the body positivity trend is dangerous because then we are normalizing obesity and metabolic syndrome and diabetes and so on. Talk to me for a moment about that because that's a very sensitive topic, isn't it? Accepting ourselves the way we are and at the same time making change. How do we
Sure.
balance that?
Yes, I my perspective is that big agriculture and the, like Nabisco, right? We
Yeah.
know that Philip Morris bought out Nabisco and made food addicting, right? So the ultra processed food consumption is what's causing the obesity epidemic, and it's not okay to normalize it because these foods are toxins. The amount of Alzheimer's is going up markedly. And in the United States, women are twice as likely to get Alzheimer's than men, and so it's not okay to normalize eating junk food. Like for me, like since when is it like, oh, I just want to eat a salad, I want to eat fruit, I want to have, like, why does that mean I'm on a diet? Like, no, I'm just eating real food. I mean, why, it's like, oh, if I go out with friends and they're all eating pizza, I'm like, I haven't eaten pizza in 20 years. I haven't,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
don't miss it. I don't want it. I don't crave it. I want whole foods because that's what makes me feel good. Like, remember, I got sick from that antibiotic, so I had to really focus on healing myself using food. And I know what's bad, and it's like, why is it like when I go out, it's like, oh, I'm not eating French fries. Like, no, I'm not eating deep fried food with these seed oils that are super inflamed. I want to look like I'm in my 30s when I'm in my 50s. Like, and
Mhm.
I want to feel like, most of my friends are 10 years younger than me because that's my energy level. When I hang out with people my age or older, they can't keep up with me, so I want to continue to live that way. And you can't live that way if you normalize obesity, inflammation, Alzheimer's, diabetes, like massive sugar consumption. Like, it's not okay. Not to mention the burden on the healthcare system. I mean, when I worked in the hospital, we had an entire diabetes floor, a whole floor. And what made it a diabetes floor? That everybody was on a heart monitor. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's or more like anything that affects your heart or your brain is it should be a big deal.
Yeah. See, I love that you have this background because you bring that picture, that vision, if we from the choice we make. So it's very clear to me that we have choices, options, and I wonder what drives us to make these bad decisions, Sarah. Lack of self-love.
Yeah, or it's just addictive. Like, we have food addictions. Like those, like when RJ Reynolds, the cigarette manufacturer, bought Nabisco, they took the same principles that made their cigarettes addictive and made food addictive. We're
Ah,
addicted to these
ah,
things. Like,
yeah,
cheese is dopaminergic. Every time you eat, it lights up the same parts of your brain if you do a functional MRI that you do if you eat sugar or drugs. I try
ah,
to explain to
wow,
most blood types, like blood type O and blood type A, that's 80% of people. Those people do not metabolize gluten well. They do not metabolize dairy products well. Well, like gluten and dairy are like top food groups in every restaurant you go to, and they're addictive. It's
yeah,
it's not everybody's fault. We don't know better. I mean, we're subject to the environment around us and our influence from peers, from social media, from television, wherever we consume content, you know.
yes. So the solution would be to become more intuitive, isn't it? To kind of rely on our own experience. Because I go by that though. The way I feel when I eat something, and then I just
Mhm.
stop. If like bread, I can't eat bread for some reason. It doesn't really go with me. So, but you mentioned cheese. I do like manchego cheese. There's a Spanish type of cheese. Once in a while, not every day, of course. Is that something? Oh, with wine, my husband, he has like I mean, it's more lovely his habit than mine, and it's very little, like 3 sips of red wine with a little bit of cheese and olives. We have that once a week, every Friday. Is that I'm wondering if that's a good habit though to keep.
I don't think so. I'm not going to tell you not to enjoy time with your husband. Like, we go by the 80-20 rule, right? For a good 80% of the time, you have to be realistic. In
Yes.
reality, is any amount of alcohol good for you? We know it's not, but am I never going to have champagne again? No,
Yeah.
I'm not. I think, you have to still live. I mean, wine is delicious.
So it's yeah, once in a while, and being conscious about it. Yeah, I have very little. He does too, and it's very small. We don't eat that much.
Yeah. It depends too on the person. If I'm working with somebody who's recovering from Epstein-Barr flare-up from a
Mm,
COVID vaccine or COVID or something, like there's a lot of Epstein-Barr and sometimes Hashimoto's thyroiditis will come from the Epstein-Barr from COVID. So if somebody's like sick with that, then no, you got to be stricter with it. If someone has, it just depends on if you're just a normal everyday person looking to optimize your health, you can live by the 80-20 rule. If you are sick with an autoimmune disease and maybe you're getting diagnosed with a second autoimmune disease, it's time to put the brakes on your lifestyle and start making some major shifts to try to recalibrate your metabolic systems before you're sitting in an infusion center getting whatever
mm,
whatever the DMARD is that they're giving for whatever disease. Like you don't want to be, you got to stop a freight train. So I think everything comes on an individual basis. That's why I offer a 30-minute Zoom on my website. I have a
yeah.
coaching program, which is comprehensive and people are really successful with it. But, I think the best thing to do is I do a 30-minute face-to-face Zoom and deep dive and get a root cause so that we make sure that we're doing the right thing and going the right path.
Yes, yeah, that's very helpful. And I'll have the on the podcast notes. They will be here.
Okay, yeah, great. Yeah, I would love to connect with people.
Yeah. You mentioned lab. Oh, one of your services, actually, you mentioned earlier, it's lab work, right? Sarah, we're almost at
Yes.
the end, but I have so many questions here. So, if we are not have any, of those feelings that we are getting sick, our energy level is high, and we are doing really well, do we really need to do the lab work? Like my case has been maybe 6 years since I've done anything. Should I rely only on the way I feel, or should I get them done anyway?
Okay, so there is a doctor out of Cornell, and she's a PhD. She had spent her lifetime researching Alzheimer's. I just listened to her like a month ago. So now I'm like real all excited about it because it validated my intuition. So what she has done is she's studied brains and MRIs of Alzheimer's patients and why it happens to women twice as much as men. We think it's hormonally mediated. So as you are going through perimenopause and you start skipping periods, this is actually when those amyloid plaques that are characteristic of Alzheimer's start depositing in the brain. You won't get the diagnosis for 20 years. You won't.
Ah,
That's the big thing is like when we start going through this second puberty, that's when you have to keep an eye on it because 1 out of 4 men and 1 out of 5 women will die of cardiovascular disease. That's either a brain attack or stroke or heart attack. And that it doesn't happen overnight. So once your estrogen levels start dropping, your triglycerides are going to go up. Even if you keep your same diet, fasting, exercise regimen that worked in your 40s, you're still going to have increased triglycerides and increased visceral fat. So with all other things kept equal. So it is critical your sex hormones are not just about having sex. They're about preventing
mm.
certain cancers, preventing cardiovascular disease, preventing Alzheimer's. And that's just what we know now. Who knows what we're going to learn in the next 5-10 years as we're implementing. Like, think about how many people are wearing these wearables. Do you know how much data you're getting from this? Like, before you had to do these big randomized clinical trials and this and that, but now we have all these wearable companies collecting all this data on people. And so the information that we're going to get from this in the next 5 to 10 years is going to give us so much insight. So to answer your question, if you're in your mid 40s, get a baseline test of all your sex hormones. If you don't know which ones to get, you can find me on, I'm on Instagram,
Yeah,
7X Method. I'm on
yeah.
YouTube, 7X Method. I'm on TikTok as South Beach Doc. You can find me like, just message me, get help, get an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It takes 10-20 years for these diseases just to develop, and it starts in midlife. It starts with your second puberty.
That goes for cancer too, my Sarah.
Well, yeah, the difference, the testing that I use, it's a urine panel. It will also check for estrogen metabolites, downstream metabolites that you don't get from blood work from a doctor. And so that's where we can see the early stages of a buildup of possibly carcinogenic metabolites. So then we work backwards and we're like, okay, so maybe your genetics are having difficulty, metabolizing these things. And so we can give different herbs to help the body make up for what it can't do on its own.
Right. Gosh. So that's the message for me that this is definitely a sign.
Yeah, nobody's safe. This is a very toxic world we live in. Like it's
Yeah.
the amount of chemicals and stuff that we're subjected to. It's no matter how hard you try, you still like nobody's safe out there. I'd keep an eye on your sex hormones.
Yeah. We're almost at the end. I want to mention again how amazing your work is. Your book, I have to go back over and over again, and I'll be in touch with you as
You.
well.
That's really
Um,
kind of you to say. Thank you.
yeah, thank you for everything that you have done and have been doing. It's just incredibly helpful for all of us, not just yourself, for all of us. So, again, it's that mentality that, wholeheartedly commitment to helping yourself and others. There's something about that that goes back to the spirituality to me. So, thank you.
My pleasure.
So before we say goodbye, I want to mention the health coaching packages that you offer. So all this is on your website, drsarahdoyle.com. It will be on the podcast notes, and then the
Yeah.
IG too. I'll have those links there. The YouTube, all those links will be there. And then you have the 7-day reset juices too. That's very interesting, and we can choose. I was just going through everything.
Yeah, we have a kosher kitchen in Miami where he'll send that out on dry ice.
Wow.
I want to mention that for your listeners, there's a $2,000 discount on it's
Ah,
summer, right? It's summer, it's
wow.
slow. So I'm giving your listeners a $2,000 discount. The password is Fit for Joy 2000, Fit for Joy 2000, and that'll give your listeners $2,000 off.
Wow, that's amazing. So thank you.
Yeah, no, sure, I'll email it to you later to make sure you got everything. But yeah,
Thank you.
I want to, help as many people as I can, and that will cover the 10-week boot camp, the 24/7 access to me, all the labs, an online course library. You get the whole thing. So, and discounts on the supplements.
Thank you, Sarah. And to end the conversation, would you like to add anything that you left unsaid? Anything that you feel, questions that I didn't ask, anything that's meant to be here?
Oh, well, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. Your enthusiasm is so genuine. It's so appreciated. It was a blessing to connect with you today. And I hope that, if we can just help one or two people every time this is played, then this was a success.
Right.
Mhm.
So, what is your idea of freedom? What is to be free? What makes you free in this body and mind that you have?
I think the number one way that people can be free is to live without fear, not
Hmm.
be afraid.
Ah, that's a big one. That's a big, big one. Not to be afraid. Yes. Gosh, that's another podcast conversation, and that's one of my
How not to be
reflections.
afraid.
Yeah, right. It is, Sarah. Really is. Thank you so much again for your presence, your
My
beautiful presence.
pleasure.
And we'll talk soon. We'll be in touch again. Bye for now.
Bye bye.